Graniola. This is the Graniola channel, and I'd like to tell you a folk tale. You may have heard of Scheherazade and her 1001 Nights. If you have, you might remember that she avoided her own execution by beginning a new story on each of 1,000 nights and postponing its conclusion until the following evening. The Jinn back in is one of the 1,000 tales that she told. Hundreds of years ago, there was a fisherman who was a little bit lazy. He didn't bother to plant any vegetables or pick any fruit, but he did go fishing every day. In the morning, not that early in the morning, he'd go over to the river and throw his net in. Then he'd sit next to his net during the whole day. Usually he caught 1 or 2 fish. But one day it was almost time to go home and he didn't have anything in his net. He was a little bit disappointed and hungry, but also the day was hot and the flies were circling his head, so he didn't want to stay much longer, and he decided he would pack up, head back home, go to sleep, and forget about having dinner. But before he had even time to stand up, he felt a tug on his net. It felt as if he had captured something very heavy. As he pulled it closer to the surface, he saw what he thought was the biggest copper-colored fish he had ever seen. He was delighted, thinking that with a fish this big, he wouldn't have to work at all for the next 3 or 4 days. However, when he had gotten what he thought was an enormous fish onto the ground, he realized it was nothing but an old brass bottle. Even though it was very pretty, he was extremely disappointed not to have landed a nutritious supper ingredient. When he picked it up and saw that it had a small top, he did what anyone would do and unscrewed it. When he did, a rush of cold air, accompanied by a huge cloud-like purple figure, escaped and floated up over him and said in an unfriendly tone of voice, "I am the Jinn, and I have taken an oath to kill the first man that I see upon escaping from that vessel. So now you must prepare to die." The fisherman scrunched up his body, made eye contact with the other, and begged, "Please, let me live." When the Jinn's expression and posture didn't seem to change, the fisherman added, "Not to put too fine a point on it, but you didn't actually escape. I liberated you. So I'd say you owe me one." Now, as I told you before, the fisherman was quite lazy, but he was also clever, and he was quick to intuit that his companion was not sympathetic. He straightened up and said, "I understand there's no alternative. If you took an oath, you're bound by it. But before I die, I would really like to know how a person of your impressive physical stature could fit into such a small bottle." The Jinn puffed out his chest so it doubled in size. "I am so powerful. I can change myself to be whatever I want. I can be as big as the tallest mountain that you've ever seen, or as small as a tiny ant like the ones that are walking around your feet right now." "Oh, I don't believe you at all. Do I look that silly to you? That gullible? No one could do such a thing as that." The Jinn arrogantly responded, "You are quite mistaken. I can do all of the things that I say." And as his voice petered out, his body transformed into a thin stream, and he had flowed back into the bottle in a second. The fisherman, who was not so lazy in this moment, jumped up and put the top back on. He kicked the jar with the genie in it back into the water and went home happily, even though he didn't have anything for his dinner that night. The stories that Scheherazade told were collected during the Islamic Golden Age from all over the Middle East and Southern Asia. This tale is a particular favorite in Jordan, where it's still being told and retold today.